Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into the monsters of Lethal Company. You know, the popular game that's going around that everyone's just passing away in. Yeah, we're going to go over the monsters and how to possibly survive them. So if you want to survive your next encounter, buckle up, like, subscribe, leave a comment with your own thoughts below or with something I may have missed. Now, if this video gets enough attention, I'll make a video on FNAF lore. Now, we're going to start with the indoor entities, starting with the snare flea. Snare fleas are large insectoid entities in Lethal Company. Snare fleas hang from ceilings and drop down when a player walks near, attempting to attach to the player's head and suffocate them. They will only let go if damaged or when their target dies, after which they will reattach to the ceiling. They are able to open doors. Their danger level's around 30%. Their scientific name is Dolus scalopendra. They're pretty small, and they're a roaming and trapping kind of monster. They dwell inside, and they can take about 3 hits from a shovel. A strategy you can employ is watch the ceiling for snare fleas. They can be identified with the echo scanner. Shaking your head does not result in the snare flea being dislodged. If a player is alone, the snare flea will automatically detach once the player reaches critical health. This does not occur in multiplayer. If a coworker is unfortunate enough to be attacked by the flea, use a shovel, stop sign, or yield sign to remove it. The zap gun can be used to knock a flea off a coworker's head. If you have no way to remove the snare flea from a coworker's head, it may be best to guide them to a pit or a landmine, as the snare flea remains dangerous after killing its target. If you are close to an exit, you can try to blindly reach it, as leaving the facility will cause the flea to immediately pass away. Being teleported to the ship while being attacked by the flea will cause it to immediately pass away. If the snare flea latches onto you, remain calm. You drop all of your carried equipment once latched onto, and running around may cause you to lose track of it. Reach for a lifeline. If you are carrying a shovel or a sign, you can use it to knock it off of your head, hunt it down, and consequently end its life. Alternatively, if you have a teleporter, try to grab your walkie-talkie and notify a player on the ship to teleport you out, as it will automatically off the flea. Rarely, if you are near an exit, you can also use it to instantly off the flea. If you don't have a lifeline in multiplayer, politely identify and make use of any turrets, mines, or holes around you. The safety of your coworkers is of most importance in this situation. In single player, collect all of your equipment and scrap, and wait for the flea to fall off once at critical health. The only thing worse than losing your items is losing your life. A few notes. The television offers several tips on dealing with the snare fleas in a workplace safe manner. And some trivia is the way snare fleas attach themselves to a player's head in order to kill them is similar to head crabs from Half-Life series and the face huggers from the Alien series. Now on to the next monster. Bunker spiders produce silk and lay it around their chosen nesting area and wait for it to be tripped on. They can be seen waiting on walls, often over doorways where prey could enter unaware. If you find a bunker spider unprepared, it may freeze as a defensive reaction. In this case, they are best left alone. If a bunker spider reacts aggressively, it is best not to fight it with ordinary tools. They use their webs to make up for their rather slow movement. So take note of your surroundings. Their webs can be broken easily with any blunt tool. Bunker spiders can pose a great danger to humans, and urban explorers especially. Without a great benefit to their ecosystems, A resulting kill on sight order has been informally agreed upon between many states home to the bunker spider and is currently approved by the ITDA as of 10/6/2497. A bunker spider will start hunting once any of its webs are touched. As of version 45, bunker spiders can attack players who are standing on railings. However, it is fairly easy to kill by 1. Simply walking backwards, jumping as it gets too near, and hitting it as it approaches you. While bunker spiders are very persistent and will chase the player for a prolonged period of time, they are fairly slow to attack. Even a walking pace is usually enough to avoid being attacked if you keep moving. If arachnophobia mode is turned on, all bunker spider models are replaced with the floating text saying, "Spider." When a player is killed by a bunker spider and then later discovered, their corpse will be wrapped in spider's webbing, disabling the ability to grab it. On to the next monster then. Loot bugs. Hoarding bugs of the order Hymenoptera are large social insects. While often found living alone, they have been found to share their nests with members of their own species. They measure a height of 3 feet on average, with bulbish bodies. The thinness of their fluid and blood and the material of their carapaces contributes to their low weight, making them capable of flight with their membrane wings. It also makes their bodies somewhat transparent. Hoarding bugs were given their name due to their territorial nature. Once they have chosen a place as their nest, they will seek to adorn it with any object they can find and protect those objects as a part of the nest. Hoarding bugs are not so dangerous alone as they are in large hives. However, if left alone, hoarding bugs are surprisingly neutral and pose little danger. Hoarding bugs will attack you if you get too close for too long. We all love the stupid cuddle bugs that go yippee if you have the right mods on. Strategy. Keep your distance and refrain from stealing from hoarding bugs to prevent them from targeting you. They take upwards of 3 seconds of near collision with a player before becoming hostile. Their erratic movements can occasionally cause them to follow you, even while trying to evade them, causing them to enter attack mode. If the opportunity arises, it may be wise to shut them inside a room you've already checked for scrap, as they are unable to open doors. Leaving the building will allow the player to avoid the hoarding bug, potentially allowing it to wander off somewhere else into the facility, before the player re-enters the building. However, this strategy is time-consuming, and the player might spend more time waiting around than looking for and gathering valuables. If looking to avoid confrontation, but to stay inside the building, an item of value can be dropped in front of the hoarding bug, which will cause it to grab it and run back to its hoard. The player loses out on bringing the given item back, though if the location of the bug's hoard is found, the item can be recovered at the cost of likely angering the hoarding bug. The hoarding bug can appear in groups, most commonly in a group of 3, and in rare occasions as high as groups of 4 or 5. If you steal an item from the hoarding bug's hoard, it will permanently aggro onto you until the item is returned to it. Simply killing the hoarding bug with a weapon such as a shovel, stop sign, or yield sign is a viable option, as a player will be able to out-DPS a single hoarding bug, even in head-to-head combat. While the hoarding bug can be easily killed, it is recommended to attack it while it is harmless to have the upper hand. Hoarding bugs also struggle with tight turns while aggressive, and their attacks can be sidestepped, leaving them open to a hit. Now on to the next creature. The Bracken. There is debate on the genus to which the Bracken belongs. It is a bipedal vertebrate to skin the color and texture of a red beet. The name is coined for what appears to be leaves protruding from its upper spine. The purpose of these is believed to be for intimidation, However, not much is known about the specifics of bracken behavior due to its elusiveness and low population. We know a little bit from accounts by wildlife experts who have encountered it. It is a lone hunter with high intelligence. Its behavior can seem aloof. It exhibits high aggression, even when unprovoked, yet quickly backs off when confronted. However, brackens are known to up their hostility when cornered, or simply watched for a long time. It is theorized that upon death, their bodies undergo a rapid decomposition process, which is unique from other large animals. The strategy to deal with them. It can be spooked if looked at quickly without staring, but it will attack if stared at for roughly 4 to 5 seconds. Their luminous eyes make them easy to spot, even in total darkness. Only one bracken can spawn per map. If you manage to trap it behind a secure door, you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the run, provided it stays closed. When a player is killed by a bracken, the creature will drag the corpse to a predetermined favorite location set at the beginning of the game. It is a common misconception that the corpses are always brought to the bracken rooms, a room reminiscent of the back rooms that are found at the edges of the facility. Brackens will typically have their favorite room be as far away from the main entrance as possible. Once a corpse has been dragged to a spot, the bracken will stray further than usual from the area, and this is the best time for players to attempt to recover the corpse. Once angered, a bracken will rush after its prey and try to snap their neck. However, if the target leaves the facility, it will immediately return to its passive state. Here are some notes on the creature. Ratback's folium roughly translate to predatory leaf in Latin. There is a rare instance seen in a video of gameplay where the bracken was able to phase through a wall while moving at a high speed. Due to a misunderstanding, the so-called Bracken's laugh has nothing to do with the bracken itself, and is actually heard while insanity is high. For its dying animation, the bracken appears to crouch and disappear, leaving behind small gray particles. That's the end of the bracken's stuff. On to the next creature. Thumpers. Thumpers are highly aggressive, carnivorous species of the order Chondrochytides. Their skeletons are cartilaginous, giving their bodies a stretchy and rubbery quality. Their name comes from the fact that they must eat their bottom legs in order to escape the shell of their hatched egg. Their bottom legs are hardly functional to begin with. Their arms or front legs are very strong, and they occasionally use them to stomp prey. They can reach great speeds in a straight line. They are relentless hunters, typically at the top of their food chain. Their main weakness is the intelligence and complete lack of hearing. If you come across a thumper, your best means of survival are leaving its line of sight, as it is slower around corners and can't easily track prey. Due to the fast and volatile evolution of this species, some theorize that halves are one of the examples of an increased number of mutation, causing higher levels of speciation in planets around the Thistle Nebula. A strategy to deal with them. Thumpers will make a loud roaring sound when they have spotted a player and are starting a chase. They will accelerate towards the player in long, straight corridors. They'll quickly reach speeds that the player cannot outrun. Thumpers cannot hear the player. They rely purely on sight. When they lose sight of a player, they'll investigate the area where the player was last seen. Additionally, they lose speed when rounding corners. When being chased, break line of sight as quickly as possible, and take numerous turns to try to stay out of the thumper's line of sight. Although the thumper has to hit a player with full health 3 times in order to kill them, they require 4 to 6 hits with a shovel to kill. An effective strategy involves one person luring the creature to take a hit, while the other exploits the opportunity to stun lock and eliminate them. Thumpers originally could not reach players standing on top of railings on bunker maps. This was an unintended exploit, and as of the update 45, has been patched and no longer works. When a thumper is hit with a weapon, they will lose all momentum, allowing a player to continuously attack them without taking damage. Trivia: the scientific name is an order composed of sharks and rays in real life. Like thumpers, members of that scientific group have cartilaginous skeletons. The scientific name, Pistris savius, translates to fish savage. Now on to the next creature. Hydrodre. A eukaryotic organism classified within the paleographic group Prostidia. With the incredible speed of reproduction, these small organisms can multiply to millions. Hydrodere rarely split apart, instead choosing to form large, viscous masses, which take up large amounts of space and become a danger to deal with, requiring large tools or lures to relocate. The slimes are drawn to heat and oxygen and can detect it from seemingly anywhere. There's almost nothing organic they can't convert to their own body mass. Nothing has been found to poison them. Constantly replacing themselves, they can persist for hundreds of thousands of years. If you ever find yourself cornered, find a tall object to step on top of. They have trouble climbing. Here's a strategy. If a music is played on a boombox and is placed on the ground, the slime will migrate towards it and dance on top of it. If a player is holding the boombox, the slime will speed up dramatically. This is potentially useful when attempting to lead the slime. The slime does not kill instantly, so quick players may be able to escape it if caught. Sealing it behind a door or bulkhead can trap it. The slimes grow bigger over time, and if they are hit with a weapon, they split into two. Slimes cannot pass through sealed doors or go outside, but they can squeeze under other closed doors. Slimes can be avoided by standing on top of railing, but they will attempt to stay as close as possible to a player and will not move away from the railing. Hygrodere is a Latin term meaning to get wet. Kinky. Next, we're going to talk about the Ghost Girl. There is no data on her, as she is unable to be scanned. And when we talk about her behavior, most of the information has been data mined from the girl's AI code. A simplified logic of the way she behaves is somewhat like a game of hide and seek, and not a game of tag. You're the seeker, not the hider. If you ever found, look at, or approach her, there's a chance she will start chasing you. She has 3 distinct behaviors: hide, stare, and chase. She will always spawn out of your screen. Her spawn position will always have enough distance and a clear line of sight between you and her, meaning if you're on the ship and there's a shelf, a terminal, or even a shower, excluding the bunk bed, blocking the line of sight between you and the entrance, she will never spawn, as the outside of the ship is the only sufficient space she can spawn at. An assumption as to why players think the shower myth exists. Enemies consider the shower glass as a wall they can't see through. Since the girl won't spawn if you place the shower correctly, the shower not facing towards the ship entrance, and staying inside, the myth where taking a shower changes her target was created. If you are haunted, consider manning the ship and building a wall of objects that blocks line of sight to the door. Not necessarily blocking the door, a maze-like of zigzag system of placeable objects is sufficient. An alternative is always to stare at the ship entrance to prevent her from spawning, as she can't spawn behind you because there's not enough space in your ship. Another alternative is to never look at the ship entrance. Even if you face your back towards the ship entrance, she will spawn, but as long as you don't look at her, she will never chase you. If you want her to stop spawning while in the factory, Hug a corner or even a wall and look at the room. She will only be able to spawn behind you. Chase. There are chase triggers. There is a technical addition sub-behavior between stare and chase. We call that a chance. Chance is a state where she will attempt to start chasing you. She has two important variables in determining how she will enter chance mode. Time she stared at you and times you've spotted her. Both increase one time only per appearance and stare. There are two ways for her to engage in chasing you. The moment you look at her, a formula is checked. The amount of times you spotted her, if it's 3 or 5 times she stared at you, minus the times you've spotted her, is greater than 2. If any of these are true, there's an 85% chance she'll start chasing you. If the distance between you and the girl is less than 5 unity units, a formula is checked. There is more formula, but the only important thing to remember is this. If the times you spotted her is greater than 2, if that is true, there's a 65% chance she will start chasing you. All of this applies to current and future appearances during her haunt of you. It resets per target or round. The next topic is a simplified guide to the formula. To completely avoid her from chasing you, if you hear her spawn, making breathing noises, do not look for her. Do not engage in line of sight to her. Do not go near her. You can safely look at her 2 times, including the initial spawn. Any further attempts will lead to chance state. If you look at her a second time, and if you're close to her, she will enter chance state as well, as mentioned in the second formula, but she's safe to approach the very first time. Do not go backwards towards her. The only rule you'll ever need to never turn around if she's behind you. You can keep moving forward, left, or right, but never turn around. You can turn around if there's a wall between the both of you, or if she is despawned, which is indicated by no longer breathing. If you don't hear anything behind you, it's not necessarily safe to turn around. If the hall behind you is long, there's a chance she'll spawn far enough for you not to hear her noise. In any moment you fail to follow any of these, she might enter chance mode, where she might chase you or just disappear. A clear indicator of failing the round of hide and seek is when you hear your audio distorted. Following this advice will change the girl from a highly dangerous entity, greater than a jester, into a very minor inconvenience such as a hoarding bug. In the event of being chased, you can end it by running far away from her, at least 50 unity units. You can easily do this by entering or exiting the factory, or being teleported by a teammate. Or you can loop her if you have enough stamina. You should be able to loop her. Just be sure you don't have any items that's holding you down. There are distinct signs indicating the ghost girl has set her sights on someone. The lights are terminal flickering, giggling or heavy breathing, hearing becoming muffled or difficult to perceive, quiet girlish vocalization such as a gentle "hi" with no apparent source, hearing the faint chimes of a grandfather clock. She does not immediately go in for the kill. Instead, she indulges with a period of haunting and toying with her victim, singling out one player to haunt. When she starts skipping towards you with this, signals the beginning of the hunting phase, where contact with her will result in instant death. While not exceptionally fast, evading her is critical. If burdened with excess loot, consider dropping it to enhance your chances of survival. Contrary to common myth, the shower does not cause the ghost girl to change her target. Unlike the gesture popping, the ghost girl haunting a player does not necessarily mean the end of a run. However, this comes at the cost of that player having to divert their attention from the compound. She can haunt the players in all areas of the map, including the ship, and maybe appear on the ship's monitor cameras dancing. The player that the ghost girl targets is determined by a point system, based off of several factors per round. The most paranoid player, the player who turns their camera the most, receives 30 points. If a player has been critically injured, they receive 10 points. If a player is holding items worth more than 150 scrap value, they receive 30 points, and the most insane player receives an additional 50 points. If insanity level increases and decreases based on multiple factors as well. If a player is inside the building, their insanity level will increase at a rate of 0.08. If a player is inside the ship, their insanity level will increase at a rate of 0.2. If a player is outside and is sundown or later, their insanity level will increase at a rate of 0.5. If a player is outside and is earlier than sundown, their insanity will increase at a rate of 0.3. However, if a player is near other players or is hearing other players on the walkie-talkie, their insanity level will decrease at a rate of 3. If you're in single-player game, all of the above values are divided by 1.6, excluding being around players or talking to a walkie-talkie. Furthermore, if you're outside, not in the ship or factory, your insanity level will decrease at a rate of 1.25. This insanity level is not used or updated outside of this, except for setting ambient sounds for a playback while a player is inside the building. Approaching the ghost girl while being haunted may cause her to temporarily disappear, but it is not advisable. While only the haunted players can see the ghost girl, the ship's CCTV will be able to spot her, allowing unaffected crew to try and assist. The ghost girl, currently build 4.0, is the rarest entity in the game. The ghost girl is immune to zap and all damage. She can appear and kill haunted players anywhere, including inside the ship. It is possible the ghost girl is based on Alma Wade from the Fear series. The ghost girl was the only entity that could exit buildings before version 4.5 introduced the Masked. On to the next creature now. Sorry that one was so long, it just had a lot of code to go over. Spore lizards. Often named puffers or spore lizards, Lacerta gloriorium, lot of the family Alligatoride, is one of the largest and heaviest reptiles. Despite their large mouths, they are herbivores and do not have a strong bite. The bulbs on their tails are believed to secrete a chemical which attracts and accelerates the growth of the fungus species Lycosirodon perlatum, which it then can shake to release spores in a defensive mechanism, a unique example of a mutualistic symbiotic relationship. Spore lizards have very timid temperament, tending to avoid all confrontation if possible. If their attempts at threat display are not effective, they may attempt to attack, so it's not recommended to corner or chase one. There are historical records that spore lizards were just at least partially domesticated hundreds of years ago. However, this effort was set aside by an initiative to harvest their tails for medicinal purposes. These catfish-like creatures roam through the dungeons, opening their enormous mouths in an attempt to intimidate any players that enter their line of sight. However, their display is mostly a bluff, as spore lizards are generally harmless. They slowly retreat into the shadows unless they are cornered. In such a situation, the spore lizard will release pink fumes from its mouths, which, while impairing visibility, does not damage the player. While their bites do inflict a small amount of damage, these creatures mostly function to startle players. The scientific name, Lacerta gloriorium, translates to lizard groups or lizard of groups, since spore lizards do not naturally spawn in groups. It could be referring to the spores the creature grows. The spore lizards are of the same family as real-world alligators. Next on the list are nutcrackers. They are the guardians of the house. They watch with one tireless eye, which only senses movements. It remembers the last creature it noticed, whether they are moving or not. Locate cover and wait to attack the Nutcracker while it is reloading. The Nutcracker has unlimited ammunition, but the shotgun can only be fired twice before needing to reload. If it detects nearby players, its head will lift to reveal a singular eye. The eye will begin scanning for movement within a 360-degree field of view, rotating periodically. You can avoid becoming a target by remaining completely motionless, assuming it didn't already detect you prior to going into the sentry mode. Moving your camera is considered movement. The shotgun will contain as many shells as it had on it when the Nutcracker dies. Thus, killing the Nutcracker after it reloads results in a total of 4 shotgun shells, thanks to the guaranteed 2 from the Nutcracker itself. The Nutcracker can kill other entities with the shotgun blast. While it is possible to trick it into doing so with proper coordination, it is significantly riskier than killing the Nutcracker and using the shotgun yourself. Beware long corridors and open areas, as chances that you will be shot are higher, even if the damage decreases with range. The Nutcracker is capable of kicking employees too close to it, instantly killing them, and flinging their corpse forward. When the Nutcracker is killed, its body falls backwards and can fall directly into a wall, making the shotgun irretrievable. It is advised to deliver the killing blow in an open area to not risk losing the shotguns. Vow is the only planet that cannot spawn Nutcrackers. The Nutcracker is the only enemy to drop items on death. The Nutcrackers are the only enemy with a lethal ranged attack, as well as the only enemy with 2 different attacks. Contrary to popular belief, you cannot steal a Nutcracker's shotgun while it is alive. On to the next creature. Coilheads. Colligrius, or colloquially known as coilheads, have not been studied extensively due to their extreme unpredictability and dangerous properties. They have been known to combust into flames when being dissected or even deactivated, and can carry dangerously high levels of radioactive particles. Due to this and other reasons, it has been highly speculated that they were created as biological weapons of war, although this has not been proven. Coilhead's visual appearance is that of a bloody mannequin, with its head connected by a spring. Their defining behavioral characteristic is to stop when being looked at. However, this does not appear to be a hard and fast rule. When they encounter a loud noise or bright light, they sometimes appear to enter a long rest mode. Coilheads cannot be killed. However, their inability to move or attack when looked at is a significant weakness. Stun grenades can temporarily disable them. Players can take turns watching a coilhead while each of them moves to a safer location. Players can lead coilheads around by rapidly looking away then back at them. This is useful for repositioning coilheads to allow escape, such as if they are blocking a doorway. With the right camera positioning, it is also possible to use an exit while having a coilhead in sight. Coilheads are not omniscient, so moving sufficiently far away may cause them to stop tracking the player. Coilheads require a direct line of sight, unlike many Weeping Angel type enemies from other games. This means that if you step behind a wall and lose sight of the coilhead, it will be free to move unless it intersects your line of sight again. It is deceptively easy to become blocked in by a coilhead in a small doorway or hallway. The area stared at in which the coilhead will stop moving does not include the head. The player must have the body, not just the head, in direct line of sight in order to freeze it. Players killed by coilheads will have their heads replaced by springs and hands removed, mimicking the entity's appearance. The character design and mechanics of the coilheads are very similar to SCP-173, a character from the SCP Foundation, likely being an inspiration. The SCP was likely inspired by Weeping Angels from Doctor Who, which follow the same move when not being observed rule. The coilhead scientific name roughly translates to a man who collects in Latin. Due to how the game calculates sight, coilheads may move slightly even when looked at. Now on to the next creature. The Jester. Get out of there before it goes ape. You cannot hide from it. Just evacuate. There's no scientific record. Good luck. You know as much as all of us. We just call it the Jester. The strategy. These peculiar creatures, akin to a bracken, operate in two distinct modes. Boxed mode. Initially, when one comes across a Jester, it leisurely approaches players and somewhat mirrors their movements, but is otherwise harmless. It locks onto the location of a random employee, ensuring a persistent presence. Unkillable and unshakable, you find yourself stuck in a dead end with a Jester blocking the doorway. Jump on top of it and crouch to pass through. A Jester will remain in the passive state for a brief period, around 20 to 40 seconds, until it stops moving. It begins winding itself up while playing Pop Goes the Weasel, much like a traditional Jack-in-the-Box toy would. Popped mode. When the Jester finishes winding, its top will open, allowing a colossal skull attached to a fleshy stalk to emerge. Tracking the nearest player, its speed increases, surpassing that of a player at full sprint. Upon catching up with the player, it will instantly kill them on contact. There is no outrunning or hiding from a pop Jester. Exiting the facility is the only way to escape it. After around 5 to 10 seconds of being there no targetable player in the facility, the Jester will return to boxed mode and wander off. There are very few places in the facility that are out of reach of the Jester, but if you find yourself trapped with a pop Jester, using them to wait for a teleport may be your only hope. A Jester goes back into its box once all living players have exited the building. A Jester's transitional wind-up phase can be stalled for a maximum of 20 seconds by using the Zap Gun, giving other players 60 seconds instead of 40 seconds to evacuate. Jesters do not operate on sound, sight, or movement. This means that hiding, sneaking, or staying still will not help you. The Jester's speed is based off of the distance between it and the player it has picked to hunt. The farther that distance is, the faster it becomes. The opposite is also true, and because of this, some players have been able to effectively loop the Jester and escape with the help of a teleporter. The radar booster's flash can briefly stun the Jester in both its box and popped mode, and can be done repeatedly to massively delay it in both modes. The stun also resets its acceleration in its popped mode, which can practically negate its threat entirely, so long as the person on ship duty stays on top of it. For our final indoor entity, we have the Masked. This entity cannot be scanned, so there is no lore on them. Their behavior is: Masked have these methods of spawning. Players that hold down their primary item use key with one of the dramatic masks in their hand will be transformed into one of the Masked, though the time it takes for this to activate may vary. Players can hold both of the dramatic masks in their hands for as long as they want without risk. The only way for a mask to be put on a player's face is if they use it. The comedy mask can be taken on and off as long as it hasn't held up for too long, while the tragedy mask gets attached to your face as soon as brought up, forcing the transformation. Players killed during their transformation will not reanimate. Players that are killed by a mask will be transformed into a new masked. A player that dies with a mask in their inventory will not be turned into a mask at a later point. It will drop the mask as normal with death. The masked can temporarily spawn in the same manner as other enemies, although this happens exclusively on Rend and Titan. The masked will frequently imitate player behavior, such as peeking corners, looking around, and spinning, as if asking for a warp. Assess the validity of a player's actions. If they're spinning despite no immediate danger and proceed as if nothing happened, there is reason to be suspicious. The masked may exhibit inhuman behavior, such as moving in a perfect loop at sprint speed. If a player ignores enemies, or vice versa, and scrap is easily perceptible, it is also wise to be wary. The masked will continue to imitate player behavior on the ship monitor after dying, though stationary. Behavior-wise, the masked are akin to brackens. They will hesitate when they spot a player before beginning to stalk and pursue them. Unlike the bracken, however, the masked will eventually, and relentlessly, pursue a player it has detected. A masked can be evaded and pursuit broken should enough distance be created on the line of sight broken. During a pursuit, the masked target players individually, ignoring other players until their pursuit ends. Other players ignored by a masked can freely attack said masked in pursuit without worrying about a sudden target change, given the player does not stray too far away. The masked will constantly face toward the targeted player in pursuit. This can help players identify the target and allow them to assist the target. The masked are on contact kills. A player will be locked in a death animation upon coming into physical contact with one. Once a masked catches a player, it will regurgitate blood onto a caught player, both killing them and turning them into a new masked. A masked attack can be interrupted with a shovel, stop sign, zap gun, and so on. If a player swings a weapon before being grabbed by a masked, their attack can still register as a hit and free themselves. There is a very, very small window for this to work. Currently, players saved from masked attacks may still result in cameras being frozen, if saved later than the initial grab. During the blood regurgitation, the player may be stuck with a red tint on their screen. The camera freeze will remain until the end of the round, while the red tint only disappears on death. Naturally spawning masked will always wear the decoy suit, while created masked will inherit the suit of a player they were spawned from. Wearing suits to differentiate between crewmates and masked is an advised strategy. It will also be easier to discern a crewmate's death and when to use caution. If a player is assigned to ship duty, they are best left with a means of self-defense, like a shovel, should a masked find their way to the ship through teleportation or wandering. The masked can be teleported using the teleporter, though they are unaffected by the inverse teleporter. It is recommended to place the teleporter near the door so that a player on ship duty has more time to react if a masked is teleported inside the ship. If a crew is in possession of a signal translator or walkie-talkies, communicating the presence of a masked is key to improving the odds of survival. In the event a masked is teleported onto the ship, it should be dispatched immediately, and if you are unarmed, it is best to lure them outside and evade them. The masked are capable of climbing ladders much faster than other players. The masked are capable of sprinting at random intervals. The masked, when close to a player, will outstretch their arms towards them. The masked are capable of entering and exiting the facility when not in pursuit of a player. Players killed and turned into masked show up as friendly players on the ship's radar, and can replace the player as a radar target. As they are treated as corpses of enemies, they cannot be picked up. Flashbangs prevent masks from attacking, but they do not stop them from moving around. If you suspect a mask is present, take it slow and watch your back. Do not trust the idle or moving silhouette of a player. Ask for verbal communication, an action or a presentation of their face. The mask can only communicate with laughing or crying in accordance with the mask the former player put on. The masked are not affected by flooding, allowing them to walk at normal speeds and even sprint in the water. Crossing through water can prove to be disadvantageous while trying to escape from them. They are also unaffected by quicksand and will treat it as normal terrain. In the event that a majority of your crew has been converted into masked, evacuating the moon is highly recommended unless you are confident you can neutralize them. Beware of masked hiding within the ship or behind objects, as a crewmate who was previously on ship duty may have been attacked by or teleported a masked. Beware of any roaming masked if you believe this to be the case. Keep your head on a swivel. Now we are going to go over outdoor entities. First on the list is the eyeless dog, a large mammal of the class Sapivius. They are social, hunting, and in very large packs. They have also been called breathing lions for the recognizable sound in large mouths. They are endurance hunters and attempt to make up for their lack of sight with their sense of hearing. It is a popular myth that they often mistake the sounds of their own kind for prey, entering fights with their own packs. Their behavior is unique from other pack animals in their tendency to spread out far to cover distance. When an eyeless dog has found prey, it roars to alert others in the near vicinity who will also sound the alarm, sometimes resulting in a kind of chain reaction. Eyeless dogs can be dangerous in swarms. However, they are characteristically clumsy, taking guesses at their prey's exact location, which are often incorrect. Avoid noises, including speaking, as it can hear your voice. Depending on microphone settings, you may be able to whisper. Crouching suppresses the noise of the player makes from walking, allowing players to avoid the eyeless dogs as long as they do not physically bump into them. Turning on then off the walkie-talkie will alert eyeless dogs. Text chat can be safely used over the walkie-talkie near eyeless dogs. Having an active walkie-talkie in hand while texting will broadcast the message to other players with the active walkie-talkie. Items listed below can also attract its attention. A boombox, the store delivery rocket, scrap items that can actively make noise such as air horns, clown horns, or air dryers. Scrap items that passively make noise, like old phones, remotes, robot toys, rubber duckies, and teeth. Dropping some of these items, such as the robot toy, can silence it. Dashing away from their charge path is the best way to avoid instant death if the roar has already been heard. High elevated surfaces such as boulders or the top of the ship are safe locations, as eyeless dogs can neither jump nor climb them. Keep in mind that after missing, they often lunge wildly a few more times before returning to their passive behavior. Lightning can be a powerful weapon against eyeless dogs, being able to kill them in a single strike. Players can take advantage of their sensitivity to sound by luring them to drop metallic objects. As eyeless dogs investigate the distraction, they'll stand near the sparkling items as lightning strikes it, resulting in their death. With enough time and good positioning, this technique can be used to exterminate an entire pack. When combined, the zap gun, shovels, and effective team communication can make short work of the eyeless dogs. Ship furniture cannot stop eyeless dogs from getting into the ship, even if positioned to fully block the door. Despite blocking player movement, eyeless dogs are able to walk through all furniture. Closing the door with the on-ship controls is the only way from them, keeping them out. They have different levels of alertness depending on how much sound is occurring nearby. First level, they'll just wander where they'll simply move about aimlessly. Second level, they'll perk their tails and heads up and growl, moving towards the general direction of noise heard. This can be surprisingly generous, with some intensely loud noises such as air horns, not triggering their attack, but their second level. The third level is they'll roar and attack, running and lunging wildly towards the direction of the noise. This also alerts other dogs, often launching them into attack as well. Eyeless dogs can climb the stairs of Titan. Baboon hawks and eyeless dogs will fight in rare circumstances. They are both spawned in. Now on to the next creature. Now we are talking about the Forest Keeper. Believed to share a common ancestor with Rapex folium, these behemoths are called forest keepers for their biomes they often inhabit. Their bare bodies, markings on their front and back which mimic eyes. This trait is more helpful in their youth as they are not agile. Their skin is a unique, dense material which hardens further throughout their lives. The large spikes and bumps across their bodies form as a result of aging. It's been said forest keepers exhibit a curious behavior, similar to that of a human child at the age of 5 or 6. They will eat anything they find fascinating. Forest keepers don't actually need to put anything into their mouths, and it's theorized their main source of energy is a process similar to photosynthesis. Still, this makes them relatively dangerous to observe. They can see across long distances, so staying low and making use of cover is a must. They cannot enter small spaces and are not generally destructive, so stay close to shelter or overhangs. It is important to always break line of sight to avoid being spotted. Trees are very useful in this regard. The Forest Keeper cannot enter the ship, but their collision boxes allow them to grab players near the door or against the walls. It is possible to throw a stun grenade or use the zap gun just before it catches you to survive. Despite what one may assume, the laser pointer has no effect on them. It is possible to use the teleporter to save a colleague from death by either teleporting them while the Forest Keeper is chasing them. Despite their presumably large weights, they can cross the rickety bridge on Vow without breaking it. They can be attacked by other hostile creatures, and they can be eaten by an Earth Leviathan when the Forest Keeper is in full sprint after a player. They can attack any other hostile creature, such as a baboon hawk. There is a small chance a cloud of blood may appear when they eat a player. Any player caught within this radius or cloud will begin to cough and lose stamina, and will take damage as soon as their stamina is depleted. Upon spawning or after eating a player, a Forest Keeper will enter a curious state where they watch and follow players as normal but do not attack. There is no known way of determining if a Forest Keeper is curious, other than it catching up to a player and not eating them. It is also unknown how long Forest Keepers remain in this curious state before becoming aggressive again. This is believed to be an intentional feature, as it survived version 0.45 update, which fixed several well-known glitches. Forest Keepers will always outpace a player, even one with no weight. Despite this, dropping your items as it spots you to increase your speed can be the difference between life and death. Forest Keepers are able to be stunned by a radar booster by flashing them. On to the next creature. The reverently named Earth Leviathan is one of the largest invertebrates found around the Thistle Nebula. None have been captured, so not much is known about their biology. They seem to behave as predators. It is speculated they can burrow as far as 40 meters underground, judging by the incredible excavations they can leave behind. They can detect even the slightest vibrations, and for this reason it is not recommended to stay still to see if they are nearby. It is a myth. Instead, If you hear them burrowing, retrace your steps. The Earth Leviathans announced their first attack with a loud and distorted growling sound, and black particles rising from the ground. It is possible to sprint out of the area with a fast enough reaction time and low enough encumbrance. The Earth Leviathan devours everything within the area marked by black particles when emerging from the ground and when diving back under. The reaction time before an Earth Leviathan attack, indicated by a growling sound, is very short, making it important to recognize the sound of one's attack. The Earth Leviathan can be tricked into eating forest keepers. This occurs only when a forest keeper is in full sprint after a player. On to the last creature of the day. Baboon hawks. They are hunchbacked, but can stand up to 8 feet on average. Their heads are bony, with bird-like beaks and long horns, which they use like skewers to gore and feed on prey. Their horns are made of keratin instead of bone, like the rest of their skulls, and they do not contain nerves or blood vessels. As a result, baboon hawks can often break their horns from the force they apply, then fully regrow them within the same season. Baboon hawks partly owe their name to their large wings, which could never carry their large body mass around, and are used instead for intimidation and protection from the elements. The largest baboon hawk trap ever observed was made up of 18 baboon hawks. They are loosely territorial, and much of their behavior is motivated by intimidation and display. They can become collectors, using any flashy or colorful object to mark their territory. As lone scouts, baboon hawks are generally timid and won't attack unless provoked. In greater numbers, they can become a great danger. Sticking close to others and making yourself seem dangerous is the best way to prevent an attack. They prefer smaller mammals, but when desperate, are known to use their numbers to attack animals even twice their size, such as eyeless dogs. Baboon hawks will only attack players when they are in equal or greater numbers in comparison to said player, and will not attack if the baboon hawk troop is smaller than the player group. However, if the group's of equal size, the baboon hawks will be more hesitant. This behavior makes it wise to stick with teammates when a baboon hawk troop is nearby, to reduce the risk of being attacked. If there are not enough baboon hawks in a troop, they will maintain a healthy distance from the player, but will still follow them. Baboon hawks will hesitate in attacking players who shout at them using their microphone. The results may vary depending on how large the troop of baboon hawks is. Baboon hawks are known to harass eyeless dogs, and will even fight them, which serves as a good distraction when trying to sneak past them. If multiple baboon hawks decide to attack an eyeless dog, they will most likely kill it, but a single baboon hawk stands no chance. If a baboon hawk kills a player, it will spear the player's corpse with their beak before dropping it. An experienced player can win a fight with a single baboon hawk using a shovel quite consistently, only making them a threat in groups. They seem to be shy away when consistently stared at by players. And those are all the entities that pose a threat of that I'm aware of in Lethal Company. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, share with people, and remember, if this video gets to enough people, I'll make a video on the FNAF timeline. I doubt that'll happen, but prove me wrong. I will see you all next time. Hasta la pasta.